Vomit had collected in Jacob Arley's mouth, and when he was called upon to move, it would slosh out over his lip and run over his chin. There was still a part of Jacob that felt embarrassed at this, but it was already only a small part. His eyes were watery. If he concentrated, Jacob could see a field in front of him, but trying to pin down such a singular image amid all the billions of eyes he was now connected to was such a taxing exercise. One field amid a billion eyes? One thought amid a billion minds? Jacob was but one man among a billion humans, now forcibly connected to each other over the past 5 days. 5 days. Had it only been 5 days? Yes. 5 days since the meteorite landed in the Midwest, carrying something science was helplessly unequipped to explain, other than to liken it to a proliferating viral consciousness. Jacob had perfect empathy now for people he never knew existed before. Jacob felt blinding pain at husks on the front lines being set aflame by U.S. troops. Jacob experienced rapturous joy as multiple bodies fought to create new life. He felt both pleasure and pain at all times now. He would forevermore, a voice told him. Now a part of the connection, he would live on even after his body died. That old body, in fact, was no longer where Jacob was anymore. Jacob was everywhere now. He was everyone. Jacob Arley was also Nathan Sims, a 20-something surfer on the West Coast. Jacob was also Melissa Kant, a mathematics teacher at a preliminary school in Oregon. Jacob was also connected to the rest of his family, who had all been caught by the connection early on. He had mourned the loss of his family at first, believing them eternally separated from him. Now, however, inside this perverse mockery of an oversoul, Jacob was closer to his family than he could ever have dreamed of being. The Arleys now existed as one, the distinction between them being only a matter of human perception. Years of sibling rivalry which had gone unchecked and led to actual resentment between Jacob and his brother was washed away in an instant as understanding between the two blossomed in the united mind. Complexes with his father and mother diffused. Mental damage undid itself in revelations of joy. The Arley united cried tears of happiness as Jacob's body cried tears of something lost. It no longer remembered what. The connection facilitated a stronger and more enduring form of love and acceptance than Jacob had ever thought possible. He even began to grasp that this love and togetherness he felt was directed towards all life in the connection. They were all Jacob's family now, and that family was growing, not just by the predatory ways that caught living people, but growing in the old ways too. With a surge, the connection pushed. Was that Jacob that just became a new mother? Did it matter anymore? He could already feel the new children join the choir of connected brains. They were already a part of him, and Jacob rejoiced. He realized that no voice was naming the new children. There was no need. Individuality existed in the connection only as a holdover of prior lives. New brood would have all traces of such a problematic trait removed from the start. After some time spent swimming in his thoughts, Jacob hazily realized his body had been chasing someone. He hadn't told it to, but a higher hive instinct now controlled his old body's movements, like a puppet on strings. Part of Jacob wanted to say, "Run," and part wanted to say, "I'm sorry," to the person he was chasing. And then, for some reason, he had the urge to yell, "Kill me." Instead, all Jacob managed to vocalize was "hurts," as yet more vomit escaped from his now permanent, slack-jawed expression of terror. With the connection having control of his body, the mental barriers we place on ourselves that limit physical exertion were gone. His muscles and limbs tore after the running man, heedless of pain or ripping sinew. Jacob easily caught the helpless victim and welcomed him into the beauty of the connection. Jacob's eyes were watery again. He didn't want to watch this anymore. He didn't want to see anything. He saw it all. A billion eyes watching the changing of the world. He wanted to be alone. He would never be alone. A tiny spark rattled around in the primitive, perfunctory organ that was Jacob's brain. A memory. Memories were one of the most powerful tools a person could hold on to resist giving up their individuality. He remembered what it was like to be alone. He had spent his life being alone. He used to curse his loneliness. He used to cry for a human connection. Ironic now, he thought. Jacob was never any good at making friends. He didn't really like people, and they usually didn't like him. So he avoided the world. He avoided his family. He avoided life itself. Only one person made Jacob feel safe in reaching out. Rebecca Silver. She came to his school in 7th grade. It took Jacob until sophomore year to realize he was in love with her. Then, in junior year, Rebecca reciprocated his feelings. None of their classmates could figure the pair out, but Rebecca didn't mind. Jacob's status as a loner didn't put her off. So, for a while, they were happy. Jacob was happy. When compulsory education came to an end, however, Rebecca left town for a college Jacob couldn't get into. Their parting was hard, but they were amicable. They told each other they'd be fine. Jacob wasn't. Jacob only became more insular and closed off. A hermit from the world. Where is Rebecca now? The thought was not his own, but Jacob couldn't tell the difference. 90.8 miles to the east, he thought. An hour drive taking the highway, and then 10 minutes after leaving it. He had looked up her address on Google Maps to torture himself, though he'd never driven there. We can go there. She is not yet connected. This is what you want, Jacob. You can be with her again. With her forever. Our love must grow. Be complete. I don't want, Jacob protested. You already told us where she is. We are already there. Rebecca sat holding her head between her knees. Below, she could hear the sounds of those things breaking into her house. She knew she didn't have much time left. She had already prayed for her soul and said her goodbyes to the world. What else was there to do? Footsteps clambering up the stairs. This was it. Rebecca! Came a shout. Oh, God, she thought. I didn't know they did this. I didn't know they called your name. Rebecca! It's me! Rebecca shoved her hand over her ears as the door to the room started coming down. The final crash, and there was no more protection. Rebecca covered her mouth and looked up through tears. Jacob had done it. He had gotten to her first. Rebecca!
Don't worry. It's Jacob. The connection is fine. Trust me.
With horror, Rebecca watched the creature, who looked nothing like Jacob, who was very clearly a different man's body, reach out its hand as if to take her on a journey. Jacob was thrilled. He had connected with his childhood sweetheart. He had access to her mind. He suddenly felt closer to her than he ever was able to before. Truly, this was a level of intimacy that just couldn't be obtained in his previous life. This was better. Jacob could sense Rebecca's consciousness was having a hard time adapting to its new existence, but he knew that she'd see the benefits soon. In the meantime, he continued to scan her memories, reliving the good times they shared. But something was wrong. There were other people here. Jacob had not been the only boy in Rebecca's life. She had a crush before she met Jacob, and a boyfriend after, and she was married right now. Her memories of Jacob only amounted to a flash in the pan of her mind. No, this was wrong. Jacob could feel Rebecca's consciousness growing more terrified, more isolated and panicked. Jacob then felt other consciousnesses gather. Other minds of the connection began to probe Rebecca's memories, exploring her thoughts and past, invading her mind, seeing Jacob's minuscule part in it. Rebecca screamed. Jacob wanted to yell. This was all wrong. Rebecca was supposed to be his alone. He wasn't supposed to have to share. He wanted a connection, a real human connection. He thought they were in love. Jacob could not stand this betrayal. He retreated back to his husk body. His eyes watered once more, and he began to wail, pathetic and full of pain, connected and alone.